Damn, Ingenious made the beat? Yo, welcome to another episode of the Coach Life Podcast Radio. I'm, of course, your host, the casual one, Coach Steve. Join with me, as always, my co-pilot, Coach Luna, the dime dropper. How are we doing, Brody?
Blessed. Man, I feel like it's been a minute since we've done one of these. It's been a roller coaster of three, 4 weeks since we've done this. We had, went to Panama and then came back, Hurricane Barrels happened, and the next thing I know, Trump about to get assassinated. It's been a crazy,
Been
crazy three to
it's a
4 weeks.
whirlwind. A
Man,
whirlwind.
man. But blessed nonetheless.
Absolutely. 100%, yo. 100%. CEO, founder of the Coach Life Podcast and brand about building your brand. Coach Wash, how we doing, Brody?
Hey, I'm good, man. Hey, blessed and not stressed. Hey, he was sent so we can repent. We here for it.
Facts. Got a special one for you guys today. We're just gonna jump right into it because Coach Luna and I were having this conversation off camera about a month ago. And we came up with an idea. Coach Luna came up with an idea. I'm not gonna say it was all mine. But Coach Luna came up with an idea that I thought was just brilliant. So we have put together a Let's Talk segment. Now, you guys know we always have a guest on periodically. More times than not, we have a guest on that talks about a particular topic. There may be a subject matter expert on that particular topic, and may have some insider knowledge on some things here and there. So we put together this particular topic on maneuvering through toxic situations. I think this is a very, very good one for a very special guest of mine, Miss Tasha Bennett. How are we doing, love?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so happy that you were able to join the podcast today. Miss Latasha has a master's degree in civic media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain for those who don't understand civic media, the actual degree, what that kind of entails? Because I'm lost. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I still am, and I have the degree. No, essentially, civic media, and the way that I understand it and the way that I apply it, is using my skills as both a content creator and also as a video producer as a tool, like a change agent in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So creating like PSA spots. Also, there's a component of media literacy, which is like something that's super high up on priorities for me, right? Making sure people understand misinformation, disinformation, right? The difference between a lot of that, how to be able to really validate the information that you're reading, right? So it's a lot of that. And just using media responsibly is essentially what the degree is all about.
I love that because it's a change in times now, right? Because we are solely internet based now. Everything is on the internet. I mean, you can find literally anything on the internet. And
here we are.
Right? Exactly. So this particular degree touches in a lot of different areas. And one big thing you said is that validating actual information. I know that's a very I personally feel like that ties very well into the topic, because when we talk about maneuvering through toxic workplaces or toxic environments in general, there's a lot of true information that's out there that we got to navigate through.
I agree, for sure. And I think part of that, and this is kind of like my position on even media literacy, is like trusting your gut, right? Like, does this feel right? Does this seem right? You see hyperbolic headlines and it's just like, it's meant to be clickbait, but oftentimes we share things without reading, right? We don't check in with ourselves before we kind of go off and kind of disseminate things into the world, right? So yeah, anyway, I'm a big proponent of like checking in with yourself first, like doing a gut check before you make decisions in general, but certainly before you hand off information to other people.
I love that. But before we jump into the topic a little bit deeper, I want to go into why this particular topic, why this particular degree? Why did you decide to get this particular degree? What was it about it that just kind of spoke to you and said that, yeah, this is the one that I want to major in?
Yeah, if I had to be perfectly honest with you, I went into grad school with the intention of furthering my film education, right? I mentioned that I was a video producer, and so that's why I initially came in the door as Ray. I went to Columbia College downtown Chicago, and so I was like, yes, I'm gonna go on to be in like feature films or whatever the thinking was there. And upon hearing my background, I guess he was like the intake person or just like graduate, I guess like advisor at the time. My undergraduate focus was community leadership and civic engagement, right? Like that was the name of the degree. And so I had all of this background in like service, wanting to work in nonprofit spaces. So it was a big part of like who I was. And I just kind of fell into production work is shortest way that I can explain it. And so he saw civic media as being an opportunity for me to marry the production experience that I had and also that background in nonprofit work and still having that desire to be like a change agent in the world. And so having sat on it, I was like, oh, this makes complete sense, right? Like I can take these things and figure out how to move forward with them in my life. So yeah, that's how I got there. It wasn't like a big grand plan. It was just like, oh, that makes sense.
Just putting two and two together.
Yeah, it just felt like a good thing to do.
That's a hard thing. I mean, for a lot of us that have gone to college or attempted college, finished college, wherever you were in college, or even if you didn't start, if you went to community college, it is really hard to kind of figure out and navigate where and what you want to do. It's usually like even when you get to your junior, senior year, I mean, at least for me, when I got to my junior, senior year, it was kind of like I still didn't know if this was the right area of expertise I wanted to move into. So it's kind of cool that, you know, you kind of figured out this is the two, you know, I can take this and I can take this and, you know, put these together. And this is a major that actually is going to propel me to where I really want to get to and actually, you know, play upon my skills.
Yeah, and it was a super big risk for me, right? Like civic media it was a new major for the university. I think I may have been the second or third graduating cohort from the program. So brand spanking new to the school, but also in the marketplace, right? So to go out into the world and say, hey, I have this degree, I had to do very much so like I did when we started, right? It was like, explain what this is, how it's relevant to my current career and hope that they understand. So it wasn't a clear path for sure. It was a little bit risky.
So do you really feel like it was like, okay, yes, I understand why you say it's risky because again, it's a degree that's kind of like, okay, this is new. So it's just like the first time, like, I guess, like, you know, you know, doctors, like, you know, was a thing. Like people going to school to be a doctor, right? Like, you the first graduate class to be doctors were probably like, oh, we're doctors now, right? Like, okay, I get it. It may be a little scary, but just based on the times and like where we are right now and how everything is media based now, like there had to be some sense of like security there because like this is not going anywhere. Like this is recession proof. This is everything proof.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think for me, the risk was that on paper, right? To just see civic media like on my CV, like what the fuck is that?
Right.
Right. Like it's not, if you're a psychology major, if you're a journalist, that's like a very clear, like you can identify what that is, right? Just to have civic media, I shouldn't say just to have civic media on LinkedIn or again on my CV, that requires explanation.
Absolutely.
Right. And so there lies the risk for me is just having to explain what it is as opposed to being obviously a need, but again, just like not clear for folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're 100% right. It is. I feel like this is something that's definitely becoming a need for a lot of people, especially with the older generation and the more advanced we start getting with all the information that's out there, we're gonna need somebody to help us decipher it. I mean, eventually we're gonna be those people that, telling our grandparents, like, press like the T9 on their phones. Like, you have to tell your grandparents, like, oh, press it 3 times to get the T. Like we're gonna be those people eventually. So it's cool to have this particular degree. So
yeah, and the other part that I'm like really excited about, and I also feel like it's a huge need, excuse me, a huge need for is media addiction. Right, like that's the biggest soapbox that I stand on, rather than social media addiction, media in general, right? Because media is a very broad thing, right? So it's folks who are just constantly watching the news and like getting information that way. It's a huge issue, more than I think people realize, right? For multiple generations, right? It's not just Gen X or millennials, it's just about anyone who's using social media, right, to some extent, is probably experiencing a degree of addiction because it's built to be that way, right? Like it's not on accident that people find themselves unable, to stay out of these apps, and also for a very prolonged period of time, right? So that's my other big thing is making sure people also understand the literacy side, but the addiction of it all as well.
write that one down. That sounds like a second pod on addiction. So we're gonna have to back pocket that one. So let's make this transition really quick. Again, when we talk about media, again, we see a lot of toxicity out there in media, period. So definitely coincides very well with our topic on maneuvering through toxicity, just toxicity in general. So we can take this in multiple different facets. We can go to the workplace. You can
It's
go to
very
your
open.
personal life. Well, just
Yeah.
say, Coach.
It's very open.
It's very open, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
so we can tackle this in a lot of different ways. I want to start with where we see it earliest. And usually when we see it earliest is we see it in school first. So from a school standpoint,
Yeah.
let's take it there first. Because that's
The
probably
he
like
say,
our
she
first
say.
time. What'd you say, Coach?
The he say, she say.
Yep.
Starts immediately. Starts immediately. As soon as you get into elementary, somebody said something, somebody said you said something, that led to this, that leads to this, the gossip. That's the word, the root word for me, that is the gatekeeper of all toxicity when it comes to the workplace, relationships, is gossip.
Mm.
Gossip to me is the one that gaslights everything.
Yeah.
Because majority of the time, the gossip is started with either a misunderstanding or an opinion that doesn't really hold any weight. You know what I'm saying? And that thing just takes off. You know what I'm saying? People, and this is my personal belief, I think sometimes people try to find a reason why not to like people. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a hard concept for a lot of people to grasp that some people are just very confident or some people are just very reserved. Some people just don't like a lot of interaction. So therefore something's wrong with this person. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a hard concept for a lot of people to get. And especially when you're a youngin', you know what I'm saying? It's extremely rare to find when you see that mature kid that ain't in a lot of trouble, that's not that's not messing with nobody, that
Stay out the way.
Keeps his headphones on. He's an enigma, right? Everybody wants to, what's wrong with that person? Something wrong with that person. How we gonna pick on that person? And it starts then, and it's just a subconscious thing that just builds upon experience and years and years and years. That even as adults, you go ahead and do it. Why should sit there and in the office won't say a word to anybody, and somebody has to say a word to Wash because it's like, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with this guy? Nothing wrong with him.
Totally remember those days of sitting in the coach's office and all of us coaches are in there bitching and complaining about something that happened in practice, and Coach Wash is sitting in the back quiet.
Every time.
Hey man, confidence is silent. And I think people that ain't confident got a problem with confidence. And it's not all, and in the situations y'all talking about, not even necessarily just me being confident, but that's just, I like to wait till the noise die down before I dive in, because it's so much being shot around. I'm like, I'm not adding to the chaos.
Right.
I feel no need to, because I'm looking for a solution. Or even me sitting there in my silence, I'm working something out of my head anyway.
Right.
Then I'll present it.
So from a school standpoint, let's go back to early education when you were in, your kindergarten age,
Can't talk
your
about that.
the first grade, second grade. Tasha, take us through, why do you think, again, it starts that early? And is it something that is done with malice intent, or is it something that's just done for just the acceptance?
I think from my perspective, it probably starts even before elementary school. I think it starts at home, right? Like, what kind of environment are you in, right? Um, is it a toxic household, right? Like, how do you communicate with each other within your house, right? Because you either learn things, right? School presents its own opportunity to learn, but I think how we're conditioned early makes a difference. So even like, I was like one of those kids who was never really good at the dozens, right? Like, over the years, I've gotten better at like clapping back, right? Or, like talking shit. But early on, it was like a really difficult thing for me to like want to say something bad about someone, right? Like, and then kids, once they figure that out about you, you're targeted, right? And they're right? No, seriously, when they know you're the one that's gonna cry or pout or whatever, however I displayed, you're certainly targeted. But at home, I was being taught to, like, if someone hits you, you hit them back, right? Whether it's verbally or physically, and it just wasn't in my makeup, right? Like, I was just like a hugger, a lover, and I was like being conditioned to be tougher, right? And so then that affects how I'm presenting at school, right? And so for me, there was like a conflict of like who I thought I needed to be to survive in the environment, or what I was being told, and like what my true nature was, which wasn't to like be harmful or hurtful to other people. And so I think to some extent, to just, I think, answer your question, is that some of that is like learned at home, like the conditioning, like who you think you have to be at school, how you have to show up, like survival. And then the other part of that is just like the culture of kids, just like also just trying to figure out the world. And I don't think it's always with malice. I think it's just they don't know, right? Like, they're only exhibiting like traits or behaviors for as long as they've been alive. So you're talking about like 6, 7-year-olds, like,
Right.
they don't have the insight that we have. So I think it's maybe like a conversion of those things, like what you're learning at home, and then like also what's happening at school is you're just like figuring out your social status, like your personality, how you're showing up in relation to other people. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
That was a great response. It's crazy because we are going down the road of nature versus nurture without even trying. That was supposed to be a whole separate topic, and you kind of went there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you talk about it sometimes being more of an innate thing, where again it's more of like a survival thing. I think we had again, Coach Lynn, we had a pod on this a few months back when we talked about that camouflaging. Essentially, this is something essentially that you're using to kind of blend in with everybody. Like you said, that social status. You may not be comfortable with the social status that you have at home or at school, or this is the way to kind of boost my social status at school because it's not where I want it to be at home. So you can see a lot of that with a lot of kids, and I think that also kind of leads to a lot of that toxicity where I can throw shit at you at school because I can't do it at home.
Like an escape hatch, an escape route.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like, I don't know if it's like a proven fact, but I feel like it's an established thing that kids who aren't if they don't feel safe at home, if they don't feel seen, if they don't feel heard, right? Like school is where they act out, right? This is a space for them to show up in their full, unhealed selves, right? Because they're not getting what they need at home. So, hurt people are gonna hurt people, right?
Keyword. I
You
saw
just
you,
gave
Luna.
me you just gave me a thought.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just keep down this road of what you're saying. So, as an adult, does the workplace give a lot of these adults a place to kind of let go? Because at home, my wife don't, my wife, you know what I'm saying? We got to be a certain way around the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that give some of those adults that same type of feeling like, this is where I can kind of let loose a little bit?
I think so, right? Like if you're being, I always say the word wrong, emasculated at home, right? Like you might show up to work power tripping, right? If that's where the little bit of power you have lies, like you might make it hell for everybody else because this is your only place to like exert like some power, right? So yeah, I think that 100% relates. And we probably all have bosses like that, right? Like that mother is power tripping like all the time. But it's just like, who knows how many other experiences they've had where they felt small or presently feeling small, right? Whether that's at home or, whatever the circumstances that enables them to show up as like a bully, basically.
Right.
Right.
Well, this actually ties into a pod we just had before this one, actually, in regards to, we were talking about maturation. We talked about this. We collectively said you're not an adult because of your age. If you're acting out and throwing tantrums, you're just a grown ass child.
Very
So
true.
it's like I'm coming up with a name for what you're kind of describing. It almost sounds like in the workplace, you can become a title bully. Meaning, because of the title and because of the rank that you may have within this job pyramid, you can use that, like you said, if a man, especially for a man, for example, if he feels emasculated at the house, this is his way of trying to get back that masculinity of what he's not getting at home. And like to Wash's point, I think that's a core thing for a man. That's things that he needs to handle within himself. But for the person that has to navigate through this, I'm the person that's receiving this. What are the things that I need to do to, what I'm saying? I noticed that this dude is, what I'm saying? He got a little man syndrome, for example. So let's just use that one because everybody's familiar with that. The little man syndrome. He has this little man syndrome. How do I, as the person that's working with this guy, how do I maneuver around this? Like, what are my strategies that I need to do to make sure that I stay on par with doing my job and doing everything within the confines of what I'm supposed to do?
So I haven't experienced this not completely with like a male superior, but I certainly had a superior. She was a woman, right? And she very much so showed up the same way, right? So it's not specific to sex, right? If you feel inept in some area of your life and you got a little power at work, like if you're unhealed, you're gonna flex, right? And wield that power poorly.
Yep.
And I think for me, my initial reaction was to avoid this person for as much as I could, like to get work done up front, like for her to have no reason to reach out to me, like no interactions. I would try to stay away from her in the office. And there's like no avoiding, right? Like it's no amount of work you can do up front to like not have an interaction with someone. And so I took a very HR approach to my interactions with this particular person. And so what I figured out is like, you're the bully in the office, right? You're the manager that like during, a happy hour, everybody's like just throwing up issues about this person, right? Like the whole happy hour is basically just like ragging on this person, right? Like, this is even fun. Like, we're like supposed to be having a good time, and all we're doing is just like commiserating around our misery with this person. And my approach again ended up being what I call the HR approach, right? And so confronting her, right? So if she spoke to me in a way that felt disrespectful, if she gave me unrealistic timelines, I would put in writing, right, after a verbal, interaction, the tone you used, I felt you're using intimidating language, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just started putting it in writing and using very specific terms that I knew would, like, if I ever needed to forward this to HR, right, I was very clear about how their actions impacted me. And so I created a paper trail for myself, but also to put her on notice, right? Because I'm using words that also should be triggering for her to be like, oh, perhaps I should watch how I speak to her, because not only am I going to go back and recap and document our conversation, I'm going to use these words that I know will raise alarms, right? And so I navigated like that with her for a while, and it got better, right? Like, she was still who she was, right? Like, she still showed up, but like our interactions were different, and they became much more straightforward and much less about her tone or if she had a bad day. That wasn't our interaction anymore. It was just very like, this is what I need you to do. Okay, yep, I got it. And we moved on, right? But I had to like hold her accountable in order to like do that. And I had to do it for me in my way, which was to like document and like use words that I knew would be kind of, again, like eyebrow
triggering for her.
You held that mirror to her face.
Right.
Exactly what it, and when she read that email, she was like, hold on, that's how I'm sounding. I'm supposed to be the boss lady.
And also, I think it demonstrates that you're not afraid to confront, right? Because again, very much so like that version of me in middle school was just like, if they know they can bully you, right, they'll continue to bully you. You'll be the punching bag of the office, right? If you don't tell people in a most respectful way, especially in the workplace, right?
Right.
Because in life I could just tell someone that got me fucked up, but I had to figure out how to do that professionally. Right? And that was my way, right? Navigating that.
So I love how you put that. Now, now here's my question. There comes a point where it hits, where for everybody, whether it was in middle school, whether it was in high school, whether it was in college, whether it was in the workplace, there comes a point where it's like, okay, I've hit my shit ceiling, right? Like, there's no more, I'm not taking no more shit after this, right? First question is, do you think it happens sooner for women than it does for men? And second question for you is, when did it happen for you? And did you notice the change of when it happened to you? Was it like immediate?
Oof.
You look like you got something to add to that.
She already got it. You got it.
So your first question is whether it happens for men or women sooner or more often?
Sooner.
Sooner.
The only reason I asked the question is because the way that you talked about framing this up for HR, essentially, like, I worked in HR. The way you said that, I was like, if I got an email like that, I was like, we got to fire this lady, like now, like she got to go now.
She's a threat,
right? It's a threat, like it's a trap, like that's like, it was perfect. So that's why I'm like I don't know too many men that would go that route right away.
Never.
Nope. I'm ready to hit the job mark.
Super sexist, gender specific type of thing. What I found in my experience to be true, whether it's in the workplace or just conflict in life, men are, again, in my experience, more likely to just like confront something head on, right? Like, hey, bro, that ain't cool. Like, whatever their approach is, right? Like, men tend to kind of just like attack it right away. I find men not to be simmerers as much. And I don't speak for all women, but I simmer, right? And it's mostly because, again, my initial gut reaction is like, you got me fucked up in here. And like, so I have to process my experience and like think about where I need to go. Is this like I can pull her to the side and say like, hey, like I have to assess the person. I have to think about my approach because I know what my gut reaction is. So it just takes me longer sometimes to make a decision about what to do, I think. And I don't know if that's like common for women in the workplace. I think as a Black woman in the workplace, I'm also very aware of like not wanting to show up. It's like the angry Black woman in the office or the one with the complaints, right? Like I had this, especially upon entering like corporate environments where I wanted to be agreeable, right? Like I wanted to be helpful and like that has its own set of like issues. So in thinking about how I approach conflict, it was just like way more calculated, I think, sometimes than it needed to be, right? Because I suffered longer. It's like it may take 3 or 4 instances before I'm like, now, right, listen, this is not a one-off anymore. This is like who you are, and now we got to talk about it. So I'm a simmerer in general, but I think in a workplace, especially early on, I simmered on things like way longer than I needed to, just out of fear of, again, being the angry Black woman, causing issues, not knowing how far, confrontation could like go with a superior. So I think I just overthought a lot of it in the beginning. But now, now I have more kind of on the spot conversations like, I like your tone. Right?
Like, yep, you hit the button.
Because I've trained myself into like what I'm gonna tolerate, right? Like what I find to be appropriate, even if it's not consistent with the current culture of the office. Like maybe everybody else around here is comfortable with how this person speaks or how they, give out tasks, whatever that thing might be, but like I want to be navigated a certain way. And so I've had to like train myself to like, this is a red flag. Let me go ahead and tell her now. The tone in which you're speaking to me is making me uncomfortable. Right? Like I've got them in my head almost scripted, right? Like my responses for people, just so I feel prepared to deal with folks because people are going to show up in the workplace in a number of ways. They could just have a bad day, but like, I'm not the person you're going to take this out on. Like, right.
Yeah, man. I feel like women always been way better at that in my experience. What you're describing, I've seen it before, and I have not been able to master it. I've been better at just being quiet.
Are you stewing on the things that you're being quiet about?
Oh no, I've checked some people before.
Okay.
But I was out shortly after. Not that I was fired. I quit jobs. If I get that ceiling that you asking about, Coach Steve, you already know.
Right.
And you remember back in the day, and I had about 2, 3 jobs at a time. I'd be like, I'm good. This is just extra bread. Fuck you. Fuck you.
I'm out.
Yeah, straight up. No emails, HR, like even getting older, and I remember I addressed somebody once in what you just described, and I still didn't do it as well as you did. I actually emailed, I was working at the college. I emailed the campus president on the administrative side. She was my mentor at the time. So she understood. So I emailed her about a situation with somebody else in another department that overstepped their boundaries in regards to what we were dealing with or something she had a problem with. And so I emailed the campus president first. I was like, I did try to email the woman back directly, explain the situation. She didn't like it. I remember what happened. She went around me and emailed the campus president about me. And I was like, oh, this ain't finna go your way. So I emailed campus president back. I said, look, this what I want to do. I need to schedule a meeting. I'm gonna need you to mediate. Cause if I have the one-on-one with this woman, you ain't gonna be able to defend me. It's gonna be like that. Every bit of Chicago West Side is gonna be coming out my mouth in that office. And so she's like, look, you know how to handle this, right? That's what she told me. She calm. She brought me back down. I needed that though. She brought me back down to earth. Black woman. That's that helped too.
Mhm.
She brought me back down. She's like, yo, relax. You right. She wrong. She sent the reply back. Reply all. The campus president. She's like, you want to go with me? He's gonna schedule a meeting with you. And they had a little power. And then when I get in this woman's office, she made a comment that's like a little bit threatening. And I was like, I left the door open because I used to work on the team that she was managing before she was the manager, but I wasn't under her. So I knew how her department worked. So I had to flex a little bit. She said something to me like, do you realize, she said, after I corrected her and she realized she was wrong, she said something. Did you know that for so many students, it's supposed to be this number of coordinators, clinical coordinators? I was just like alluding to the fact that we had one too many. And I was like, I had this department. So you don't even know what you're talking about. I could run your department because I was up for your job before you got it. And her team was right outside the door. That was about as professional as I can be. But we ain't had no problems after that, though. We ain't had no more
You
problems.
set the standards a little bit differently.
Yeah, that was the most peaceful I've ever been with conflict in the workplace in the office setting. Other than that, I'm back on the job market. When I hit my ceiling, I got no problem, no 2 weeks, bridge burnt. I ain't got to come back here.
Right, done.
To answer, I definitely believe women have they have mastered the art of like,
Man,
I'm not finna deal with this. I'm out. Right. For men, especially in the coaching world, bro, we'll deal with it because it's what the head coach wants. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, DC or head coach, this is what they want. This is what we're gonna do.
Yep.
So we'll hold a lot of that back. And then what ends up happening a lot of times, everybody start clicking up. You know what I'm saying? And then for some reason, something somehow always gets back to the head coach, and it ain't the way that it was presented when we talked about it. But for the one gossiper that want to be the kiss ass, found his way over there to the head coach, rubbed on his back, and told him this, and then now I'm in there having a meeting, but now I don't have the paper trail. That's the part that I'm like,
see, that's the difference.
Men, every time that we've had discussions, what do we always do, coach? We always have staff meetings. What are staff meetings? We're always in there. We're all together.
All the coaches.
Everything is right there front and center. So if there's anything that needs to be discussed, head coach always says, my door is always open. So boom, but no paper trail. So there's nothing that we can really talk about from if I ever did feel disrespected, or I can't really hold you to your word if I don't have this paper trail, like you said. And as men, shit, man, we the culture of coaching is literally that. Like, this head coach, this is program, we're gonna do that. And I would say a good majority of men in the coaching world literally believe that. Like, hey, this is program, this is what we're gonna do. But at the same time, we preach collaboration and teamwork and all this other stuff, but it's always come down to one major decision. And Coach Wise seen this personally. Man. It was the last game of the year, and we had a choice on whether or not we wanted to play the game. And I said, Coach, there's no point. We're playing the same exact offense. We just lost to first game of the year. They put 49 points on our ass and 600 yards of offense. Why are we going to finish the season with the exact type of offense that we know our kids are not disciplined enough to try to play?
And better.
Let's watch. What was the result of that game?
It was worse.
It was worse. We got beat by 49 the first time. We lost by 60.
Like 60. Yeah.
I said, now why did we go out there and coach? Every coach in that room minus one Every coach in that room, minus one, said there's no reason why we need to go play this game. If we have the ability to say no, we already got hella injuries. Kids are ineligible. Nobody's showing up to practice. The morale is gone. Why force it?
Whose decision was it to play the game? Whose main decision was it?
Come on,
the
now.
head coach, right?
But we gotta do it.
Now, I agree with you guys on this, and it's something that that Tasha said earlier was I have these scripted in my head where these are things that I want to say, or if I'm in these type of situations, like she's kind of already have them categorized, like if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this. I don't know that a lot of men do that. Just like you said, like we just go right from, hey, you said some wicked, I'm gonna come at you with this, right? And it's just that is what it is.
What do our old school cats say, especially old school coaches? Bring your lunch pail.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Bring your lunch pail. You're gonna be here. It's a blue collar approach with everything. It's like it's almost like a factory worker almost, essentially, bro.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not proposed that way, but that's what it ends up being in the sense of
you're
culture.
right. I want to go back to that though too, because yes, women are more, at least it seems from my experience and from Tasha's experience and all of our experience, essentially, we've seen that women are more able to handle those type of situations because they've kind of already have a guide of this is what I want to do, right? Ours is
you can do this and you cannot do this.
Exactly. Not so much for us.
I think we have the luxury of operating the way we do them.
Historically, because you can be more forceful.
We could be more forceful. We have to think about naturally, we've always been in the workplace before women were even allowed in the same workplaces.
Okay.
So I think there's a carryover of that, of what's been modeled to even up into the point with the women today, the same way as Black and brown people, how we told we have to be that much better, or certain things we can't do that lighter people have the luxury of being able to do. You can't do that. So I kind of look at it as, I think that's why, like, Tasha is the way she is. I think a lot of that is kind of her nature too. That's what I'm getting from it. Aside from what's been modeled and handed down. I even think about my mom. She's always working in the office and seeing how she's carried herself. She's from the west side of Chicago. You already know that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hear on the phone at work or you see her in the workplace, I remember the bring your kids to work day, and I'll be like, that ain't how you talk. You know what I'm saying? Like,
using that effort voice.
Right. Been whooping my ass up and down the house. You know what I'm saying? You in here, I'll get that done for you right away. What? Where that come from? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, we all do it, Black and brown people in like an office setting, but I think it's another layer with the woman though. And I think it's been kind of modeled for them to they have to walk on eggshells a little bit and handle things a little bit different, because they're gonna face consequences faster than we do. It's just shit we can get away with to this day. And then the other level of that, the stuff that even as men we can't get away with, that somebody lighter, that's a man can get away with to this day. It's just levels.
I think that's really interesting, right? And to think about some of this being like learned for women. So I think, and maybe this kind of goes back to like those nature nurture conversations we were having initially, right? That I think historically women have had to be more diplomatic in how we do things, right? Because we don't have shit. Well, we're strong, right? But the sheer strength men have, right, and their ability to kind of like physically fight some things out or like be in control or like have that power is not innate to us, right? So it's almost like that learned thing of like, well, we have to be diplomatic and talk things out and figure out how to cleverly maneuver to make up for that lack of just sheer strength, right? So that resonated with me when you mentioned that, right? Like how we have to kind of like maneuver that way in a workplace. The question I have for all of you, I think, is like, for me and my experience and like hearing how you all are showing up at work, it feels like a disconnect for me. And I think it's because like outside of the workplace, men seem to be very confrontational, right? Not necessarily in a negative way, right? But like the men in my life and that I've experienced are just like some shit's bothering them. It's like, bro, this is like right away. It's like clear cut, y'all on top of it, whether it's in your friend groups. It just seems like much more straightforward, clear conversations. And there's resolve almost immediately, right? Whereas like again, women are more diplomatic maybe and how we maneuver each other. It's just different, right? So like to hear that you're showing up differently at work is a little, that's where my disconnect is. Like, why is that? Why, and if that is your experience in your friend groups outside of work, why you can be more confrontational there, but not feel like you can do that at work?
I'll answer that question. So from my experience, it's not that I don't want to. It's from my experience personally. People tend to get intimidated by tone of voice, maybe sometimes. The presence, just a certain way that you can convey certain things. It's misunderstood a lot of the time, and a lot of people take it as threatening. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't have a normal conversation with a lot of people because of just my natural voice. And like even with kids, sometimes I have to literally tone myself all the way down because I speak with passion. So sometimes if you're not a person that is not used to people talking with a high level of confidence or a high level of whatever you want to call it, I feel like a lot of people, especially men, especially those that didn't grow up like that didn't really talk to their friends, like, bro, we talk rough. It is what it is. Like, there's not going to be a fight out of this unless it gets to that point. Like, you'll know when that's going to happen. But I've never gotten to that point, maybe but one time, Coach Wash, one time, where I felt like I was going to have to put my hands on somebody.
I was going to bring it up. I've actually seen
it. But there's a clear difference in those two different tones. And there was a clear level that was crossed that led to that. Majority of the time, we should be able to have discourse and we should be able to have these conversations. And doesn't matter the tone of the voice, as long as we're not getting disrespectful to each other and you're not calling me this, I'm not calling you that, we should have a level of discourse. But for a lot of people, they will literally take everything in and have their opinion and not speak it. And that's where I felt like early in my coaching career, it was kind of like my Achilles heel. But as I've gotten older, it's not an Achilles heel. It's a blessing. If I feel it on my spirit, I'm going to say it. And whether it's because if we're all in this and we're calling ourselves collaboration, teamwork, and we're preaching the same thing to these kids, I can't sit here and be in this room and have a disagreement with something. And here we are, going at the end of the conversation, and I'm the only one having a rebuttal. But then when we get out of here, y'all saying the same exact thing I was saying.
Right.
So we're not gonna get no change if I'm the only one that's presenting the issue or the problem. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, like if we're gonna have any hope on saying that, hey, we all collectively feel a certain way, then we all need to be able to present it. But that's to me, the root of it is just that ability and that confidence to be like, I feel it, I'm gonna say it, regardless of whether or not you like it. It is what it is. There's nothing wrong with having another side of an opinion. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to have it my way, but I'm gonna at least say it. And for a lot of people, that's hard to do as well. Just stand up and speak your truth.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Coach Luna. In regards to that question, Natasha, I think for me it's slightly different though, and I just there's different personalities you got to consider. What we can't just blanket it. Everybody is a man and how we respond to things. Like me personally, just my personality. Um, I look at who I'm dealing with, right? And in general, even outside of work, this me in general. If I don't feel or you have not shown that you have the mental capacity to have a mature, logical conversation about something, I won't even entertain it with you. I'm not gonna give you that energy because at the end of it, I know where it's gonna land. We're not gonna even take off aside from worry about where it's gonna land. It's not gonna even go anywhere. So that's just how I am. Like once I recognize what I'm dealing with, I'm not going. I'm like this a dead end right here. So we just gonna do what we do. I'm gonna work on my checklist, do my job. Ain't no point in entertaining it. So I already know we not gonna get nowhere. You gonna stand where you at, or you're not gonna even grasp what I'm talking. And in at the same job where Coach Luna had to check somebody dealing with the same leader at the time, suggestions where he tried to act like he was open to collaboration. He was never open to collaboration. It was always said, it was always in writing, but he trumped everything if you decide to bring it to the table. Or he would go as far as, to me, I don't know, you tell me if I'm wrong, Luna, I feel like he undermined a lot of people or belittled their thoughts on things. I mean, I'm just gonna shoot it straight. Like I'm gonna bring out an example. I brought this out before. So we were talking about reaching the kids. First of all, he wasn't fit for the demographic of children we work with, teenagers we working with. He just wasn't the man for it. Just his background, who he wasn't gonna reach himself. Most of the assistant coaches at the time were more so, the go-tos as far as connecting. So I made a suggestion once. He was like, man, we're not getting anywhere with like talking about grades or trying to like commitment and buy-in. So I suggest like, oh, man, we need to bring like maybe a guest speaker or something like that. Just to switch things up. He responds, which this was one of those points where I wanted to go off the hinge. Luckily, I was at home reading the email. But would you want somebody coming to speak to your kids when they should be listening to you? I'm like,
I'm not the expert on everything.
You know what I'm saying? So pardon me, one, I'm like, keep my connection with my children out your motherfucking mouth. That's the first thought.
One.
That's one. The second one was guest speakers come in all the time. Schools have assemblies. The teachers don't feel away. The principal invites them or whoever invited them. Somebody in leadership allowed it to happen. Nobody feels away about where they stand and their ability to do their job with the children. You understand that this constant beating of the same thing from the same person, and you just know how children are. You understand that maybe we need to bring somebody in different, somebody in fresh, a different story, something that can tie in and help them see things a little bit better. But no, he's just completely against it. And the response still pisses me off, to be honest. But that's just one example. But like everything, whether we the game plan or whatever, whether, like he wouldn't let Luna completely do his job at one point. And it's like you put this man in the position to do this job and you keep stepping in
to do the job.
And the crazy thing,
huh? I said, what do you think my morale gonna do? You know what? You
right. You're not building nobody. And he always actually used the term, like every term he used, he didn't even live by coaching coaches. That ain't coaching a coach. You giving a coach an assignment, then you take over the damn assignment.
It all sounds good, bro.
And
That's
and
the whole
then and
point. It
not
sounds good.
only and then even if you did something like that, when you like pull that person by, keep them by your side and explain the reason for the decision and set them up to do it shortly thereafter, but you never took that route. You never really built them up. And honestly, you didn't get no damn results when you took it back home.
We lost 63 to nothing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
So like that's my response. When I see what I'm dealing with, I ain't got shit to say. Cause it's a dead end. When I see a dead end, I turn around.
Hence the reason why both me as a coach and Coach Luna as a coach have worked with Coach Wash and seen him quiet in a lot of situations. This is the reason, because when he sees those pitfalls or those type of walls or those barriers, he's like, yeah, it's no reason to go this route anymore. Let's just go left. I'm a little bit different. And I think this is one of the reasons why I've gotten myself in trouble as a coach, and I've gotten myself in trouble as a manager, as a leader, as a supervisor, as a whatever, right? In the workplace. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to ask a lot of questions. And I'll make you stand on your questions. I'm going to make you stand on your answers. So I've had this at work. If you go to my job right now, every single manager that is above me or at my level will tell you, yeah, if Steve will ask you a lot of questions. Just gonna ask you a lot of questions. And if you can't give me an answer, if you do give me an answer, I'm gonna make you stand on it. Like, if you're giving me an answer, this is something that you're gonna tell everybody, right? Like, so give me the answer. This is what it is. I'm gonna come back to you with the same answer that you gave me. And if this is messed up, this is you. Because I'm gonna make sure that you know this is where it came from. And I'll make sure that everybody else knows where it came from. So I think something that earlier in the podcast that we just talked about, Luna said that you did very well, Tasha, was getting people to look at the mirror, right? I think that's something that I've innately started doing more. I think that's my shit ceiling, right? Like, once it got to that point, I was like, okay, now I need to start understanding how to do this a little bit differently. If you get people to start looking at their shit a little bit better, they start not shitting as much per se, right?
I see what you're
So
saying.
that's one of the things that I started to do when I was coaching. Like, perfect example, me and Coach Wash, we kick off return. Both of us coaching the returners. One of our coaches come over and he want us to do something that sounds really stupid. We know how to return. We know what we're doing. Let us do our job, right? So it's very similar to what you said, Coach Luna, where you got a coach that's, you're in charge of this. You supposed to be doing this, and they want to jump in and throw their 2 cents in. Cool. I'll take your advice. I'll take it. But I'm also the coach that'll be like, all right, cool, we're gonna do it that way. And then when it get fucked up, I'll be like, all right, cool. Hey, FYI, come over here real quick. I want you to see what happened. So like let's walk it through. What was supposed to happen? Help me make it make sense. So when you see and you walk it through and you see that it's all messed up because this is not how it's supposed to go, and you don't have an answer, you're the one with egg on your face, right? It ain't me. You're the one supposed to be showing me. You're the expert, right? So I try to put people to get them to see what they're doing before they just give me some, arbitrary answer.
Latasha, I want to kind of like just add a little bit more to that last question that you had. So this is going into year 9 for me, or maybe year 10. I don't know. I lost count of coaching overall. My very first instruction with the second staff that I had when I was a graduate assistant at Texas State, my very first instruction from the defensive coordinator, he said, when we go to staff meetings, you don't say shit. You sit there, you listen, you take notes, and you don't talk unless talked to. That's it. And the very first day you walk in there, and we talk about the pyramid. Every coaching staff that I've always had a pyramid. It's usually, especially in college, head coach, DFO, strength coach, then it's defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, then it's position coaches, then it's front staff, video guys, all those other guys, and then at the very bottom, GAs, graduate assistants. So you at the very first time you come into coaching, you're in a gigantic servitude. Every single coach. Coach wants you to go grab him a beer from HEB, you go grab that beer. Coach wants you to go get him a coffee, go get the whole staff coffees, you go do that. Coach wants his car washed, you go wash his car. And to me, that was insane. I'm like, bro, these are grown ass men. Like, I had one coach legitimately tell me, hey, when we get done with defensive meetings, as a GA, you're supposed to come in here and clean the tables and vacuum the floors, clean the I bullshit you not, clean the refrigerators and do all these other things. You know, you got to go the extra mile. And I said,
Yeah.
so I got to be your custodian. I got to be a grown ass custodian. No, that's not. Where is this in the description of me trying to be a football coach? Like, this ain't teaching me nothing. Like, to me, y'all just trying to take advantage of me. Like, I'm not stupid. I'm young, and this is the profession I want to do. But y'all not going to put me through no hazing. Like, bro, I'm a grown ass man. Like, I'll slap the shit out of you if you try me. Like,
That's what
like
I'm
what are we talking
saying.
about, bro? Like, if we get to that point,
way.
I'm going to confront you. I don't care about your title. I don't care about this that much. I love it. I want to do it, but I'm not about to lose my dignity and lose myself as a man because of whatever ego you trying to stroke. Like, bro, I'm not finna be that for you.
They try to
Is
diddy
that the
you, dog.
emasculation?
They try to send you across the bridge for the cheesecake.
Exactly.
No,
like,
not going. Tasha,
no.
this sounds like the emasculation that you were talking about earlier.
That's a huge root. Like, I never really just tried to piece it like that, but man.
So a few things came up in listening to both Coach Luna and Coach Walsh for me. Wash.
Yeah.
Short for Washington.
Money. So immediately responding to your thought in that toxic work environment that it sounds like you're in perpetually, right?
It's not as bad.
Was
Formally.
And also Steve's question about it being emasculating. So the thing that came to me immediately is, if you're being emasculated at work, do you then become toxic at home?
100%.
Because now you're
100%.
exerting power here.
100%.
Frustration and all of that.
Yes,
right?
agree. Yes, I 100% did. And that's where I made the decision personally to, because I did not want to get out of, like this. I don't want to go too far from the topic, but I did not want to get out of coaching. Like, I prayed about it. I had like plenty of time to think about it. So I was like, you know what? I've done college. I've done high school. You know, I'll take a pay cut and let me see what middle school is about. And, my wife always tells me, like, football for me is very easy to understand. Like, it's not that hard. Like, if you got the Jimmys and the Joes, more time than not, the good guy, the good players are going to beat the bad players majority of the time, period. Doesn't matter. You draw up all the X's and O's. But when I got into middle school, it was more of a balance. And because your staff is a lot more limited, you have to collaborate. You know what I'm saying? You have to collaborate because you're also coaching basketball. You may also be coaching track. And there's a lot of carryover with the guys that you're working with. So y'all have to collaborate. Like, we don't have time to do this because now that's affecting these kids. And since they are as young as they are, they're sponges. You know what I'm saying? So everything that we teach them and fundamentals and everything, we're building the foundation. So we can't afford to be having our own agendas and trying to, I'm trying to be the next AD or the superintendent. Like, bro, chill out. Yeah, we're right here. Let's get this together. It's a humbling experience, but it's rewarding. And for me, the reward has been way greater than the humbling part. Like, I don't care about the title. I enjoy the job. and I enjoy my balance. And as a result, I felt the balance come back together, and I didn't have to bring a lot of those issues home. I don't have to sit there and talk to my wife after the varsity game for 3 hours about how bad we decided to put game plan this, and our adjustment was something that we had initially planned on Monday. Like I hate going and doing that crap. Like it got annoying because I felt our relationship was being affected, and I did not. I was like, bro, I love football, but I love my wife, and I decided to marry her. I decided to make this commitment. Football, I can get this satisfaction doing the same crap, just at a different level. So, long story short,
it's about coaching at the end of the day.
About coaching.
I think unfortunately, it sounds like maybe it's the culture of coaching, right?
Yeah.
Sounds very toxic to me, right? Like a lot of it sounds like the hallmarks of like a toxic work environment, right? Whether it's coach wash, and you talking about like the micromanagement and like the situation that you're in, right? Also poor communication, right? Or one-way communication. That's like another hallmark of a toxic work environment. Also, this idea of like paying your dues is what it sounds like to me when you talk about your experience as a graduate assistant. And that's not specific to football, right? Like I think in a lot of environments, when you're a new kid on the block, like there's a certain amount of like grunt work you have to do or less desirable work you have to do. Some of that can come with seniority and like things that are like legitimate, like on paper, like you got to work the shitty hours, you got to do the shitty jobs that people with more seniority elect not to do. But I think there's probably a point, and it sounds like it happened to you, where it becomes like abusive, right? The paying your dues, and it also seems like it's very ingrained into the culture of like this is what the expectation is. My question to you, and to all of you, I guess, when you are interviewing for a job or you're considering like a profession, whatever it is, are you asking yourself, or even the people that you're planning to work for, are you asking about company culture? Are you asking about expectations, right? Have you decided for yourself what your boundaries are going to be and what you're willing to do and not to do, right? Is that maybe that comes with experience of like working shitty jobs or being in poor environments where you kind of outline it for yourself? But so I guess it's a twofold question. Were you asking those questions before, and are you asking those questions now as a result of like having some lived experience?
I want to take this one first, and the only reason is because I've been in HR and I have a little bit more experience when it comes to applications, like working with people that are putting in applications and doing interviews, whether it's on the phone or in person. I can tell you right now, more times than not, women are asking about the culture. Men never ask about the culture. If they ask about the culture, it's an older guy that has gone through a whole lot of shit. And he's like, okay, how's the management? Like, how's this or how's that? Because they had a bad experience or had multiple bad experiences. A guy in his 20s, 30s, 40s, he probably not going to ask about the culture to that degree, unless he's been told to ask about the culture or saw something. It's not innate in them to be like, how's the culture? How's the vibe? Are people gonna coach me? Am I gonna get real coaching here, or or is it gonna be just micromanagement? Like, women will immediately ask that question. That's like if you have any more questions, that's probably going to be the question at the end of the interview is how's the culture? How's the people? How's the environment? Like, they are really, really in tune with the atmosphere very, very quickly. Whether you tell them the truth or not, or whether you tell them, oh yeah, everything's great, management's great. They already feel what the vibe is initially. That's my 2 cents with it, when especially coming from an HR standpoint, like women just innately just know.
I started asking about culture and I always asked about expectations. That was taught to me out of college. I started asking about culture in like my late 20s. That became a question for me. That was mostly because of the previous job I was coming out of, and they talked culture so heavily, like like that was real big. We always had a lot of team meetings and a lot of like the CEO was popping in, you know, once a quarter and everything. So that was like something that was always brought up. And so it was kind of just planning in my brain. So like once I started looking to leave, I was asking about culture all the time.
So for me, I'm glad I'm hearing this because these are questions I never really asked because I've already had this in my brain, like this is how much I'm gonna work regardless because of the profession that I'm in. But I always did ask, like, hey, coach, like, what is your, like, I always like to ask, like, what is your philosophy about your family and all this other stuff? And every coach gives me the same cliche answer, like, oh, I'll fire a coach if he misses his daughter's fifth
Family
grade and
first.
all this other stuff. Yeah, like, I'll fire him, family first and all this other stuff.
Right.
And they all have presented, oh yeah, you'll have enough time. You coach, you can do all this. But then again, we practicing, we get at work about 6:30 in the morning. We don't get done with practice till 6:30 p.m. We got to do laundry. We got to stay there till the last kid leaves. So I'm not leaving here till 8. So where's this time thing that we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like that's not realistic. So what I've realized is that every head coach has their own definition of what they call time with family. And they'll go ahead and their vision in their mind, they compare it with the coach next door. Like, well, on Saturdays, they're there from 7 to 3, 7 to 4 on Saturdays, on non-game days. Well, we'll be here till noon. Oh, okay, cool. So we're here from 6 to noon. So we're still 6 hours on Saturday. And then, because what's the schedule on Sundays? We get in here about, if you go to church, go to church. But yeah, we get started around 8 a.m. And, on a good day, you get out about 1 o'clock. So that's 11 hours on the weekend, plus your 14 hours a day every single day. So you're almost pushing 80 hours, like every week from August. Pretty much every coach knows right now, all the way till
Game time.
Till Thanksgiving. Pretty much is what you're working.
Game time.
Yeah, so it's 80. It's just consistent work. You know what I'm saying? So that concept of that question in that interview, I've done a terrible job of kind of like knowing exactly what y'all talking about. And what I did start doing as I got a little older, especially my second job, which was actually the second job I had was with Coach Wash after I left Ranch. As I tried to see what kind of coaches are in there. And you know what I mean by I try to see. Like if I see 60 years old, 50-year-old, everybody got white hair, nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. I don't see people that look like me
here from sun up to sundown.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. The way you talk, even if you do look like me, the way you talk, your vernacular. Oh, okay. So these are the type of guys you are. They look like me, but they don't. They grew up
like me.
Yeah, they grew up different. You know what I'm saying? They grew up on those side of the tracks. They ain't no trailer park babies. You know what I'm saying? They ain't come from some shit. You know what I'm saying? So I already paint a picture in my head based off the type of interactions I have. I don't need to have a long conversation with a lot of people to get a good read on what I think a type of person may have came from. And I don't use that as all, say all be all. But in the coaching world, I've yet to find it not hold true.
I think the level of awareness is important. I think a lot of times in relationships, whether that's romantic, platonic, at work, we're often focused on, are they going to hire me? Do they like me? Do they want me? Right? So pausing to ask yourself, do I like this environment? Do I think I'm going to like these people? Right? Like kind of putting that power back in your, you know what I mean? Like lap of like, they're not a good fit for me. Fuck if I'm not a good fit for them, right? Like this environment isn't a good fit for me. And I think having that conversation with yourself is important for sure.
Yeah. As coaches, we tend to just do, because again, the mindset has always been follow the leader.
I don't even want to say just coaching. Now, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to another level, just the necessity of a job too got to be considered too. I mean, a lot of people, even outside of coaching, the questions that Latasha is raising, I think a lot of guys in general, just being the head of household, or even today, the way the economy is and inflation, you taking what you can get. You pretty much prepared to thug it out for whatever it is, unless you just got a lot on the table. But I think for a lot of people, it's like, I need a job.
Yeah.
And
True.
I think that's why a lot of people actually don't ask a ton of questions when it becomes their turn, because like you don't want to ask the wrong question, or they worried about, is this question going to
Take
make
me
them
out of
think
the
twice?
equation.
Yeah, take me out of it,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's part of it too. I
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask Natasha was, it's escaping my mind.
Well, before you ask that question, I have to ask a question now to you two, like, because she brought up a really good point. Like, again, like culture wise, like, has there been have you made a decision based on culture without asking the question, what's the culture? Have you made that decision? Like Coach Looney, you just said recently, being in a situation like, you kind of look at the staff and kind of gauge from just the staff perspective, like, yeah, this is probably not going to be a good fit for me. But you didn't ask the culture question, right? Like you didn't flat out ask the question. So I guess my question to you guys again is like, have you guys have you asked that question without asking that question and made the decision based on not asking?
I mean, more recently, I feel more confident in myself and like just my ability to go into an interview. Like, I'm not gonna go interview for a job that I don't particularly want.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, if I don't already, I always, hey, any of y'all know blah blah blah. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a little bit. I'm gonna do my background check before I even try to apply myself to
Right.
say I even want to pursue this job. Like the job I took at Park, I did not want to do it initially. You know what I'm saying? But my boy Davis kept telling me about it. He told me about his boy that worked there. So I talked to him, and
Mm-hmm.
then boom, that led me there. Fast forward now, the guy that I'm working with now at the middle school I'm at, I met him at Park.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I made that relationship. But when I stepped into that assistant coach's office room, I seen, all right, Hispanic, black, Hispanic, black, Hispanic. I'm like, okay, hey, all right. I like what I see. I mean, from everything as what the head coach was telling me,
Mm-hmm.
from what he believes in as a staff and demographics and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? I wish it was a little better with time,
But
but everything else, he pretty much stayed in line with what he was saying and keeping true to like, I want my staff to look like my team. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like, I don't want a whole bunch of, you know what I'm saying? We know schools in the district that kids look nothing like the coaching
Right.
staff. And in the sense of relatability, we know that it's just not what it is.
Right.
Statistically, whether you're in the classroom, teachers, it's just not what it is.
Right. Wash. Have you made that decision before without asking the question about culture?
No, not really.
So,
Now, I've worked all type of jobs.
right. I mean,
So,
you've had your pick of, you know what I'm saying? Because again, you at one point when you were coaching up here with me, you had 3 jobs.
yeah.
So
That's a
again,
hard-working man.
absolutely.
So if this straight up blue collar, it's like extra money or whatever, it ain't the primary gig, then it's like I really don't care. You know what I'm saying? I know we gonna be busy. It's a lot of physical labor. You know what I'm saying? I done drove a truck. I didn't deliver ice. I didn't loaded trucks. I didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Sold insurance.
sold insurance, you know,
Right.
but yeah, depending on the nature of the job, I'll say if it was gonna be like numero uno, kind of like an office setting, more interaction with people, yeah, I kind of make that decision beforehand without asking the question.
Just curious.
The last job, the job I'm about to start, I did ask a question, but I was already reading the environment before I even got to that point. I already looked at the people I interacted with coming into the school. I'm looking at the students, how they moving around. That's gonna tell me a lot about, you know, what the respect like and the behavior issues. Just you know, just before school starts. So how y'all moving through the halls before you get with an adult? So all of that I was looking at before I even got deep into the interview to even ask the question. I just wanted to make sure the answer aligned with what I had already observed. And it did. It did. But yeah,
Have
depending on
either of
nature.
you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was done. I'm done.
Have any of you used Glassdoor?
Yeah,
Yeah. Does that inform your decisions at all to kind of see those reviews going in?
yeah.
That depends. Because I do Glassdoor.
Thank you. I was about to say,
Yes. For those who do not know what Glassdoor is, it is Tasha, can you please tell everyone what Glassdoor is since you brought it up?
Yeah, I guess I would explain it. It's like Google reviews for jobs.
Right.
so like rate my
Ooh.
professor.
It's the reviews from employees.
From current
So the
employees
questions the
or
stuff you ain't got
past
to dig
employees.
with. Yeah, you don't have to dig, you know, in
So
the
rate my
interview.
professor before employers.
Essentially,
Essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
When you are on this site, now like to answer your question, Tasha, yes, I have used it, but sparingly, because a lot of people use Glassdoor as like this. I'm getting out of this company, so I'm about to go ham, and I'm gonna tell you everything you want to know.
It's like any review
Right,
site.
exactly. It's their exit interview. They literally just put their exit interview online. Exactly. Right. So to a degree, yes, like you can kind of see some of the, again, you can see trends really well. Like again, if you see a position that you're applying for and there's 15 reviews on that particular position and the same kind of mindset is there, that can probably affect whether or not we're going to apply for that or not. But if you go on there and you start seeing, you know, I mean, there are a lot of positives on there as well. So you will see some people put on there like, you know, the great company, great leadership, you know, great culture, you know, so on and so forth. So again, I try to use it sparingly, but I use that in conjunction with like other sites as well. So yes.
You know, these companies getting smart, man. Last company I just left asked me to actually post a review during my employment. Early in it. So
they actually shouldn't be asking anyone to do that during employment. Like
yeah.
That's a no for sure.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be using your personal social media or sites like that, which essentially is social media, right? To promote the company they're currently working for, right? Because it's manipulative. You feel pressure if I don't do it or if I don't leave something favorable, this is gonna have an effect.
I said sure, but I never posted sure.
No, okay. But again, they shouldn't be asking in the first place, right? Like that's very inappropriate. And they only are going to ask you when you're leaving if you're leaving on good terms. Like, oh, you should write a review, and you know. But if you're like leaving pissed off, they're certainly not going to say anything to you at that point.
Yeah,
trying to hurry you up out the door at that point. Go ahead, bust his move.
I do have a question for you guys, and it's certainly loaded because I have a point of view. Coach Wash, in those instances where you just decide, which I call surrender, which is not necessarily a bad thing, when you just surrender, like, you know what? They got it, you know, type of thing, right? Sometimes, again, surrender can be a good thing. In those moments where you just, again, you say, hey, they got it, like, it's nothing more for me to do here. How do you handle those emotions of like, all right, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like what's happening, I don't agree. Like, how do you process those emotions? Or I'm just wondering what your internal mechanism.
What I'm like inside with it, am I bottling a bunch of shit? I'm eventually go off on somebody. No, I've gotten real good over my life at like putting things in perspective. So a lot of times, I'm not gonna say I don't bottle, but I don't bottle as much as people think I do. Or even if I do bottle, it's not a bad bottle. You know what I'm saying? It's a situation where it's like I put things in perspective. I'm like, this ain't the worst thing in the world. And I can sleep easy like that, thinking back on my life experiences. I'm like, when I reflect, I'm like, I done dealt with worse people, I done seen worse things. Like, I'm not gonna sit with this all day. I'm not gonna let it affect the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also probably I've been too good at compartmentalizing to a fault. So I'm also very good at just like keeping everything where it's at. Well, I know a lot of people struggle, just like person you dealt with before, bringing their shit to work. That they ain't got nothing to do with me. What you dealing with at home, or still know it because we talked about before a situation. It's only one time I had to like get on him about we was playing football in college, and I already knew what he was dealing with, and it was affecting him at practice, and I had to get on his ass. I'm like, man, keep that shit off the field. I'm like, man, get your head in the game. Like you lined up on the wrong side of the field. You know what I'm saying? Like me, like the world could be crashing around me, but I like if it ain't got nothing to do with what I'm in, you ain't gonna see it. I literally requested time to go to my grandfather's funeral when I was working one job. I requested time just for the funeral itself. When I came my manager, and I didn't even tell her what before. I was like kind of last minute, and she's like, "You good?" I'm like, "Nah, grandfather passed." She's like, what are you doing here? You get 3 days. I'm like, nah, I just gotta keep moving. I mean,
everybody ain't wired that same way.
But like she she was shocked because like you wouldn't know that I just lost somebody, and we were close. It wasn't like I lost somebody that I was distant from. Like,
right,
taught me trade and everything from electrical work to drywall, and like I was with them all the time. But yeah, I can keep this here, this here, this here, and I don't let stuff cross too much. And like I said, also the other thing that helped me with it just perspective too. Like if it don't weigh enough for me, I'm like, it don't deserve the energy.
I got it. I think the reason this like stuck out to me the most is because I'm like diving deep right in my own like personal life and research around like our emotional health and its correlation to our physical health, right? And so I was reading this article and it was specifically about women of color kind of bottling emotions, right? So rather that's frustration, anger, fear, essentially negative emotions, right? And it manifesting as autoimmune diseases in the body, right? And so in the article, right, it referenced this book and it was called When the Body Says No, right? So it's this idea, but blown out into like an entire book, right? About when we're dealing with stress, when we're dealing with grief, depression, right? Like those feelings don't just dissipate, right? They specifically as it was relating to women, right? We're talking fibroids, we're talking lupus, we're talking rheumatoid arthritis, right? And so it became like even more important for me to like really, really monitor my emotional health because I understood how it could then impact my physical health. And I think as we're talking about workplace toxicity, like we got to be real with ourselves about our experience. Coach Wash, you're like an anomaly, right? In some of how you're managing. But I think for a lot of folks, when they go silent, right, those emotions, again, they don't just like dissipate. You're sitting with them, you're simmering on them, whether you're taking it out at home or you're, you know, maybe self-medicating, like whatever that thing is that you do to deal with the stress, it has like this larger impact on your body. So no matter the dollar amount that's attached to the job that you're doing, the social status that's attached to it, right? Like you could be doing kind of irreparable harm to your body as a result of not dealing with what's in front of you. And so I just, again, just wanted to bring that up as just something to note, right? That like a boss who's an asshole, folks who don't respect your boundaries at work, right? People who, you know, are abusive just in how they speak, like whatever that thing is, and it's affecting you, that matters, right? And I want us to make sure that we don't minimize the impact of that, like, oh, this is just work and it's this, but it's like 5 years from now when you have like prostate cancer, like, you know, it's not a clear correlation, but there could be, right? From like that time period of dealing with that toxic work environment, right? It's also, again, because the article specifically referenced autoimmune diseases as well as the book, but I can see it reaching beyond that, right? And so, yeah, I just wanted to highlight that it's just a thing to be mindful of because it's top of mind for me right now.
I so love that you went there, partly because you just summed up the whole pod right there.
I was just about to say that. She just put the bow on it, dog.
I don't think there's nothing else that needs to be said after that. Totally summed up the whole pod because I could not agree more. All of us couldn't agree more. When you talk about, again, bottling up those emotions and, again, not having a way to let them out or display them some kind of positive way, again, they fester, they become other things. So I'm really glad that you kind of capstoned us with that. Great way to end that part. I appreciate that. Definitely.
Bam, bam, bam.
Right? Coach Luna, before we get out of here, brother, closing remarks, bros.
Man, Coach, I am not gonna lie to you. I couldn't put it any better way than Latasha did. She this was very, very good. And you know, I always love when we have our pods and it's things that we all learn as well. You know what I'm saying? And practice things that we can practice. You know, and it just comes down to, like you said, self-awareness, you know, having those boundaries, knowing what you're going to go ahead and stand for, what things you're not going to stand for, and be okay with the decisions that you make. Be more confident in the decisions that you make because nobody else knows you better than you. You know, at the end of the day, nobody knows what can make you tick more than you do. So if you already see those things, you know, try to give yourself that grace of understanding that my body's telling me that this is not good. I need to listen to this. My gut's saying no. So therefore I need to go ahead and listen. You know what I'm saying? Give that discernment's already coming to me. I just have to already just accept it. You know what I'm saying? Why fight it? It's coming naturally. It's telling me no. So, okay, no, gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So trust yourself and, you know what I'm saying? Your body will tell you and your mind will tell you to get out of those toxic situations way more times than you think. Once you start realizing like, oh, okay, that's the feeling that I need to be listening to. Okay, I'm out.
Coach Wash.
I mean, I already have a hard time following up after Luna. You always do this, but
purpose.
Look,
hey man, this is just getting you ready for you know it's coming. You know it's coming. We do the same order every time. I give you time to think about everything.
But you added another dime drop. Latasha almost stomped Luna.
That was a quarter, bro.
Oh,
she dropped a 50-cent piece.
Yeah, silver dollar.
Susan B. Anthony out
here. But I mean, let me just do this shorty real quick.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. You got to do this bars anyway. Go ahead, give us our bars, bro.
This was it's called Killing Yourself. It's real short. You know, I was just playing with a word. I said they figured if they collected enough figures, they buy themselves the right figure. They figured they love it now. Figure of public, nothing's enough now. Chasing the figure above it. That's chasing 7 figures to buy a figure 8. Never satisfied till your figures break. That's broke. I hope that triggers woke, and not an empty you between triggers smoke.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hard.
Mm-hmm. We appreciate the bars, bro.
Facts.
We appreciate the bars, bro. I
Yeah.
appreciate this pod. And again, I can't really go behind what you just said. 100%. I cannot agree more. The one thing I want to leave everybody with, and I want to go back to something you said earlier in the pod, Tasha, was how you already have like those preset ways and those preset, those microwave dinner is in your head already. You can just pop in and just say, this is what I need, or this is what needs to happen. I think, again, like you said, Coach Luna, earlier too, we all need to kind of take inventory of that and start taking inventory of, where your shitometer is. How much of it you actually can withstand. I think some of it is a little bit deeper than others. Again, Coach Wash probably you got a septic tank full of, probably, shitometer that you can probably hold down. But some of us, again, it may be as much as an eyedropper, and that's the person that flies off the handle immediately. So again, this is probably a good time, again, especially when we talked about last month, a couple months back in May, we talked about mental health. So again, I think this is again right along those same lines, and just getting you to start mentally thinking about these triggers that you may have, and thinking about the positions you put yourself in or the people you put yourself around that tend to cause that stress or that mental internal harm that you essentially have. So 100%, this was an awesome pod. Definitely appreciate the insight, Tasha.
Nice.
Never cease to amaze, yo. Never cease to amaze. Never cease to amaze. Again, if you like what you heard, smack that like and subscribe button. You want to hear more from your Coach Life family. Again, if you want to get some of that merch, some of that lovely merch, go ahead and hit that
Yeah.
hit the link. We'll have that link in the bio. Coach Wash got some more stuff coming out for us pretty soon.
About to relaunch these shorts soon.
I was just about to ask, are the shorts getting relaunched anytime soon?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing pre-orders.
I have a
Yeah.
statement. It's my last parting gift, right? It's for you all, but more the audience. If you ever find yourself telling yourself that someone has you fucked up, take a breath. Think about the situation deeply. Come back to it. Whatever you're thinking, whatever's on the other side of they got you fucked up ain't gonna be good. Your immediate good reaction, whether that's the workplace, in your relationship, I beg you think about it. Usually not gonna be a good idea. Take a beat. They got me fucked up, doesn't give you the green light to go ham, right? No matter how fucked up they got you, right? Take a breath. Think about it, and then act.
That shitometer spilling over, then you probably need to take inventory of that.
That's it.
Get another cup. Again, if you like what you heard, smack that like, subscribe. As always, family, stay positive, my friends.